What's going on, Big Stu? How you doing today?
What's going on, E Money? How are you, sir?
I'm good. Good morning, Chicago and the rest of the world. Welcome to the Money Sex Gen X podcast. This is season 5, episode 7.
Indeed.
Our season finale. Me and Big Stu, we did it. We made it to season 5. We banged them out. We want to welcome you. I'm your host with the most, the man with the plan, the Scotty Pippen. The podcast Pippen.
Indeed.
E get the money, and I am joined by the G of Genius Lab. A dope cat curating dope people.
Indeed.
Kanye of the stock trade.
Indeed.
A music mogul in the making. My co-host, my brother, Big Stu.
Bo. Lick a shot. You already know what it is. Welcome, everybody.
Man, Big Stu, I can't believe we put in 5 seasons worth of work, but I'm excited. We got a great topic for you all today. But before we get to our topic, if you like what MSG is cooking up, like, comment, share. The show is on Facebook. The show is on YouTube. We have an audio streaming platform that you can check out on Apple, Spotify, all the major streaming platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And hey, drop MSG 100 in the chat so that we know you're out there.
There it is. Drop it in the chat.
Stu, we got some merch we want to let the people know about.
We do have some merch. That we want the people to check out. And I ain't ready to show it. We have to show it on the back end. Let's keep rolling, man. We'll bring it back. My bad.
No worries. All right.
Bring it back.
Today we're dropping some game around colorism. And we have 2 great guests for you all today that we're going to bring on now. Big Stu, please. We're gonna let you know who these guests be. We got Jack Kammer and we have Nicole Massengale. How are you all doing today?
Good. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Nicole, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we had a great episode with you a season or 2 ago. So I'm going to have Big Stu introduce Nicole. I'm going to introduce Jack real quick. Jack Kammer is somebody that Big Stu and I met. We had some publicists at the time, and we were trying to do some shows on other people's platforms. We got introduced to Jack, and we had a really good conversation. Jack, remind me of what the title of that conversation was. Do you remember?
Oh, boy. Was it at the intersection of black and male?
It was something to do with that. What was it, Stu? Stu, I think you're on mute.
I was. That wasn't it. That wasn't the title.
I remember we were talking a lot about the perspective of women towards men that they were in a relationship with.
Oh, yeah. Well, the topic was, why do fathers get less respect than mothers?
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
There you go. Great conversation. And that was part of Jack's Men Are Talking. So Jack Kammer, he has Men Are Talking podcast, and then he has another show called Goodwill Towards Men. So Men Are Talking is when he's talking to men about men issues. Goodwill Towards Men is talking to females about men. 2 great shows for you to check out. Jack has a very interesting background that I didn't fully grasp until really today. He has a master's degree in social work, which that's cool, but I didn't know that he did a year as a correctional officer in the infamous Baltimore City Detention Center. Didn't know that.
I thought you was going to say you didn't know he did a year. I'm like,
he may have, but I don't know about that. He followed that up with a year as a parole and probation officer. So you were kind of in that system a little deeply for about 2 years. And then you went on to work for the NFI, which is the National Fatherhood Initiative, which sounds very interesting. You were a trainer for various state correctional systems, and you were teaching the prison staff how to run a program called Inside Out. Sounds very intriguing for incarcerated fathers.
Yes, Inside Out Dad for incarcerated fathers.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Interesting. And so Jack, he tells us that his specialty as a social work, what's called working well with men. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, let's see. When I went to social work school, I was hoping to be able to help influence social services to pay better attention to what's really going on with men and boys. That was banging my head against a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually started my own little operation called Working Well with Men. The purpose of Working Well with Men was uh, I called it Tools and Training for the Social Work Profession to help men give and get all the love they can. And I was offering some CEUs and I was offering workshops, and I didn't get any takers. There's probably a couple reasons for that. One is probably because social work agencies don't have a lot of money for new things. But I think also we just got to acknowledge the fact that there is not a lot of gender diversity in social work.
Right.
And even those men who are social workers often come at everything from the female perspective or the feminist perspective. And you don't find a lot of men in social work willing to say at a staff meeting of a social services agency, well, hold on a second there. What are you doing? What are you doing for the man involved in this situation? That doesn't happen much. So I am retired now, and I am trying to make a dent in the universe with podcasting, trying to talk about the need to talk about what's really going on with the social issues of men and boys, and how the social issues of men and boys are connected to the problems that we all care about, but aren't making any progress on. I mean, I know Chicago's a lot like Baltimore. It's bigger, but you got a lot of violence and a lot of murders and mayhem and craziness, and a lot of the people involved in that are men and boys, young men.
Absolutely.
And too often we just sort of think, oh, well, nothing we can do about those men. You know how men are. They got testosterone, that's craziness. Men and boys do not want to be doing the things we're doing. But we get the feeling often from our government, from our social services agencies, that we got to do what we got to do by any means necessary. And by any means necessary often means, at the point of a gun, slinging drugs, damaging the community just so that you can make some money so you can be somebody.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to come back to that, Jack. So thank you for that. Nicole, I want to get to Nicole. Nicole, I was raised better than this. I was raised that women are first. I apologize for that. We really should have introed you first, but we got a little jitters on our season finale. So I'm going to let Mr. Big Stu introduce you to the people.
Mr. Big Stu. Yes, Nicole Massengale. I'm just going to put it all out there. Nicole Massengale is my cousin. Nicole is a business owner.
I am.
She is a she's a registered nurse. She's a leader in her field. Nicole is biracial. Her mom is white. Her dad is black.
Yeah.
Nicole is originally from Kansas City, Raytown, if I'm not mistaken.
Missouri.
Raytown, Missouri.
Oh, you're talking about the edge of it. That's Raymore.
Raymore.
Yeah.
Nicole has seen her share of violence, losing her older brother to violence, murder, drugs.
It was a double homicide.
Mm-hmm. Nicole has had her experiences with the depths of the Black community, gangs, drugs, trauma, abuse, and has turned it all around. And now the CEO and founder of Carnelian Group, fleet management, logistics, trucking business, still doing nursing. Now lives in the DMV area, holding it down, making my entire family look really, really good. shout out to Nicole Massengale,
Thank
our
you.
female guest.
Thank you. Thank
this
you
morning.
so much for the invitation.
Absolutely.
It was a great intro by your cousin.
Yes.
Did he leave anything out that we need to know?
Well, one thing that he left out was that this is an honor for me because, like he described, I come from a multi-layered past. And as I was preparing to meet with you guys today, I went back into my childhood and started thinking about how does colorism truly affect my life? Because if you look at me and you look at my surroundings and my career, things like that, you think I have an easy life. So I'm happy to be here. I look forward to this discussion.
No doubt. All right, let's get into it. So thank you both for coming to MSG Nation today. I'm going to talk about why I wanted to have this conversation. So when I was in undergrad, you all, I didn't do a lot of work. I didn't do a lot of work at all. But one project that I do remember being actively involved in, I did a documentary on skin color. I don't remember the name of it, but the way I was back then, it was probably like something like why you hate yourself or you scared to acknowledge your blackness or something like that. I'm sure it had some kind of edgy title. But what I explored in that documentary was about 45 minutes. I was talking about colorism in the Black community, and I tried to do a historical sort of documentation of it, and I was trying to bring it into modern day times. This was back in the early 2000s. It was blunt. It was very edgy. I was in film school at the time, and I made my classmates very uncomfortable, which was my goal, particularly those who looked like me. That was who I was aiming at. I wasn't concerned about making Caucasian people or white people uncomfortable or Asian people or Hispanic. It was simply Black people. And I think I accomplished my goal. Sort of like a Spike Lee movie. I remember a Spike Lee movie called School Days. I know you all, many of you probably, did you all watch School Days? I'm sure most of us have.
Yeah.
It was really got into the colorism, but it was in the context of a college campus. Gripping, something that needed to be seen. So I thought about, hey, it's 2022. Why don't we revisit this subject and see what's going on with colorism today? All right. So thank you for joining me on this journey. So we're going to do what we call our actual factuals. We try to bring a little bit of research to the table before we dive into our perspectives and opinions. We have some data scientists that we leverage called Olivia and Spencer Consulting. Thank you for pulling together this research. We got quite a bit of research here. I'm going to try to go through it quickly. First, I'd like to define colorism. I find that in society, many times people don't understand the meanings of words, and it causes a lot of problems. Many people even say that not understanding words can lead to a person becoming a criminal. It can lead to them having mental health issues, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if that's true, but I know it's good to define. So the definition that I'm working with today is that colorism is a discrimination based on skin or hair color. It's a form of prejudice or discrimination in which people who share a similar ethnicity traits are perceived differently because of the social implications that come with the cultural meaning attached to skin color. Mm-hmm. So it's the people in your own group that are discriminating against you, according to this definition.
It's very real.
Very real. We're going to get into that. I definitely want to hear Nicole's perspective, and I have a lot of my own. One other fact that came up is that skin color is one device that is used to assign people to a racial or social class category. I don't think that's hard for us to understand, but yeah, people will look at your skin and automatically assign you to a category. Jack, I don't know if you're familiar with this saying, but we have something in the African American community, the Black community, that's called color struck. Have you heard that term before?
Color
Nicole
struck?
knows what it is. Color struck.
It's very real.
So it would be in a sentence like this: that boy is color struck.
Right.
He only deal with so and so shade women, or that girl is color struck. She only deal with so and so. Okay. So the dictionary definition, or some proper, I guess, definition would be: it's an old saying among African Americans that refers to individuals that believe that a lighter complexion and European features represent the epitome of beauty and desirability. Let that sink in. They believe that lighter complexion and European features represent the epitome of beauty and desirability. Okay, color struck. Now here's another one, and I covered this in my documentary years ago. Nicole, you might be aware of this, Jack, brown paper bag test.
Yes.
This is another one. So in the Black community, there was something that used to be used called a brown paper bag test. Many people say it was started by slavers, and they would use a brown paper bag to determine who was going to work in the house, Jack, or who was going to be the field slave. So if you were darker than the brown paper bag, you're outside. If you're lighter, you're inside. The brown paper bag test. Very interesting. This one was very, very intriguing. This research indicates that marriage is less common among darker skinned women. Marriage is less common among darker skinned women. In a study of 329 young Black women, it found that light skin tone was associated with approximately a 15% greater probability of marriage. 15%. So this is saying, hey, if you're darker, you're less likely to get married. Very interesting. All right, we're almost done. Researchers have examined colorism or the preference of lighter skin over darker skin, but little of this research, you all, is directed towards men. So Jack, I know you're an advocate for men. In the colorism space, it's usually just talked about in relation to women. And I can bear witness to that. Most of those conversations that I've heard is focused on women. But what about the men? Where do we fall into that? So hopefully we can get into that today. Last one. This is kind of a long one, but I think it's important. According to our research, European imperialists are often blamed for bringing the light skin is righter mentality to the colonized lands of Africa and Asia. But according to the research, and this is questionable, they're saying that in North African cultures, there was already a sort of mentality going on that lighter skin was a premium and darker skin was negative. It suggested that you worked less if you had lighter skin. Also, supposedly in Indian culture, there were songs where they talk about the beautiful woman was the color of butter. And pre-colonial Indonesian women used plant-based skin treatments to make their complexion pale. Wow. So I definitely knew some of those, but not all. Who wants to jump in and give their insights about some of this so-called actual factual?
Fellas?
Well,
Go ahead, Jack.
I'll start with an idea that's based in what I do know, because a lot of these things you're talking about, I never heard about the paper bag test, never heard about color struck. So I'm probably going to be listening a lot today and learning a lot today. But why do some of these statistics apply to women and not to men? I think I would say that for men, there is colorism, but the color that is regarded as most desirable is green. You know, you got money. You got money. I don't care what you look like.
Men, we say that a lot. We say that a lot. We say that a lot amongst each other. As long as the money green, I don't care what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that true, Nicole?
Yes, I've heard all the men in my life say that at some point or another. Yes. Okay. I agree with Jack. But your statistics were amazing. The actual factuals were amazing. And some of those I experienced in my real life. Like, I noticed the difference in my friends as far as my highly educated white and brown friends. I'm not going to say Black because I don't want to leave out any of my brown friends, because my friendship circle is a rainbow. I have friends nationally and internationally. And so I see it. I see it across the socioeconomic playing field. You know, colorism is real. I'm not taking away from colorism. And, you know, thinking about it, I grew up with my grandparents living on opposite sides of the tracks in the town that they lived in. But as a girl, I never realized that. I just figured that out like maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago. I'm in my 40s and I spent every summer in that town in Henry County, Missouri. All my holidays, my summers, my weekends, a lot of times, I spent a lot of time in that town. And I never realized until just a couple of years ago, I never hardly even went over there because I don't know if it was green or if it was a skin color or if it was both that divided that town. But yeah, I agree with Jack on all of it because even realizing my education in Kansas City, it was based on money. It was men running the city that had divided the city into like different sections based upon race. And it didn't work out the way they thought it had. So then they did the Kansas City desegregation order of the public school system. And you guys have probably heard about that because it was a big deal. And the per pupil cost was the largest in all of the nation because they were trying to avoid that white flight out of the city and keep the community together the way they had designed it. But it actually backfired. So that green, I don't know. That's an interesting look on it.
Yeah, that is interesting. Look, that's not even what I expected you to say, and that's why I like having guests. You don't know what people's thoughts are until you ask them directly.
Definitely.
I see my main man, Big Stu, is kind of quiet up there. I know he's had a lot of experiences in life. He's my elder in some ways. I would love to know. I don't mean that in a negative way, Sam, but I would love to know what have your experiences been with colorism.
Lots. I've experienced the dark skin brothers in class getting the raw deal, the raw end of the stick, treated poorly because of their dark skin. I've seen the light skinned brothers and sisters get what seemed to be like a different, better treatment, right? There's a connotation that if the more light skinned you are, and you alluded to it in the actual factuals, the more opportunities you got, the better treatment you got, you got the best looking couples. They're the light skinned, couples being called names because of being dark or darker. Also that paper. Go ahead, Nicole. Yeah.
On the other side, you get called names for being too light skinned.
Yeah, being called. I've seen it calling light skinned people white. Oh, you white. Saying that, kids saying that to each other. You white, meaning get out of here. You ain't one of us. Your blackness being tested because maybe they're biracial, and that's a big one. Like being biracial. So how you gonna? Are you claiming us? Are you black for convenience, or are you black only when it's cool, and then when it's not cool, you disowning this portion of us? This portion of your blackness. The paper bag test. I remember it being referred to as that's how you were able to get into certain venues. That was the admittance rule to certain venues, and if you were not that bag or lighter, you would not be admitted to those venues. My family of men are dark, tall, dark, broad men. We are seen as threats, intimidating, simply because one, we're tall, and two, many of us are very dark. Many of us, not all of but many of us are very dark, and we're intimidating. And that's just based off pure colorism is part of my experience of that.
Absolutely.
That's where I feel like where I fall into this. I feel like for most of my life, I've been oblivious to some of the smaller nuances. And I'll give you an example. If I looked at Big Stu, I wouldn't say he's a dark-skinned person, right? First of all, I don't typically look at other black people in the first, like if I look at Nicole, the first thing in my mind would be she light-skinned. I just never thought like that. So me, I've had a hard time just trying to get into that state of mind. But then the way that people assign skin tones, I usually probably don't view it the same way. Like again, I wouldn't have looked at Big Stu and said, "Oh, he's a dark skinned person." I wouldn't have thought that. And so I just wonder with myself, what happened in my socialization that did I just block out what was around me, or I don't know. Like I'll give you an example. Hold on, I want to get this real quick before I forget. Here's an example of how colorism looks in my family in recent times. I had a nephew that got married. My wife is a beautiful chocolate woman. My father was there. Of course, all of my family was there. So my wife is over there chit-chatting with my dad. And during that conversation, he says to her, I hope my wife doesn't mind, but everybody probably knows this anyway. He says to her, "Hey, you know Eric only usually dates light-skinned women." To my wife. And I'm like, so she told me later on, I'm like, first of all, that's not true. That's absolutely not true.
And that's your wife. I'm going to need him to
That's
refrain.
my wife. Why would you, first of all, why would you say that? But people in my family talk crazy like that, so that's whatever. But why was that something to say? Even if I did, why are we saying that in that conversation? And I try to really ask myself for years, like, why would he say that? Even if it was true, why did he feel the need to tell her that? And my dad likes my wife. I don't think he did it out of malice, but he felt like it was important to say, and in his mind, it was true. That's just a recent example in my own family of how it plays out. Just the fact that it's even talked about to me sometimes is like, why are we even talking about this? I thought it was strange.
I was going to ask you.
Oh, yeah, I forgot your question.
Have you ever been referred to as the big black guy?
No.
I have.
Not to my face. Not to my face.
I have to my face. Jack, if you don't know this, and for all those viewers, I'm 6 feet 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
I have numerous times been referred to as the big black guy. I've had these conversations before, and it's like, well, why did you, I'm paraphrasing. Why did you approach me that way? Why did you? Well, you're such a big black guy. You're the big black guy. It's intimidating. That's been my personal experience. So I've had that happen to me on numerous occasions.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting that when excuse me, it's interesting that when a person, often a woman, needs to make an excuse about something, she's late getting home or something, and needs to explain why she's late getting home, and feels that it might be advantageous to allege that she was a victim of a crime of some sort. I mean, it's never, oh, I was assaulted by a big white guy.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh, it was a big black man that got me. And I think that's got to be strategic at some level.
Yes.
Because, the sympathy for a woman, especially a white woman, being assaulted by a big black man, oh my God, that's the perils of Pauline. We must protect her from this horrible person who was trying, a big black man was trying to get her.
Yeah.
Right.
Evokes much more sympathy than, it was a blonde-haired Swedish man.
Mm-hmm. Spot on, Jack.
Very true.
Well, you could have fought him off, huh?
Right.
Huh?
Right.
Say what?
You should have been able to handle that.
You should have been able to handle him.
Yeah.
But a big black guy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Get the nooses. Get the nooses.
No doubt. Now, I will tell you what I have heard. Now, Stu and I are both tall, but Stu is taller than me, and he certainly has more. He's heavier. He's a bigger guy. I'm a slimmer cat, I'm not, but I'm 6'4", so I weigh about 190 pounds, 185, 190. But so what I hear is he's arrogant. What I used to hear a lot is he's arrogant. That's what I used to hear from people that didn't look like me and some that did. And I believe, me thinking back, some of that is, who is he to have so much confidence?
Right. Right.
And I've even heard this. This is something that people say in my family, and I just hear this in general with Black people, this saying of, who you supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
Who you supposed to be, Nicole?
I hear that. Mm-hmm.
Who you supposed to be?
Who you think you are?
Yeah.
As if Jack, for example, is the only one that's supposed to be somebody. And I'm not picking on Jack at all, but I'm just saying that's what we hear. Eric, who you supposed to be? Whether you hear it directly or somebody be like, yo, they were talking about who you think you is and all that. You hear it. So I believe that some of that had to do with colorism, but I could be wrong. Now, Jack, I wanted to ask you, and I guess you've kind of answered this already, in your conversations with people who are also Caucasian or identify as Caucasian, I was going to ask you, do you hear people banter about colorism? Like regards to people of color?
Oh, with regard to people of color, I guess just in the subliminal, automatic, implicit way of thinking, oh, it's a big Black guy. I think that it's very strong and not just in white culture, but probably in human culture that the big Black guy is scarier.
What about in regards to beauty?
Well, I guess we need to try to unpack the connection between facial features, and skin color, because if the epitome of beauty is European features, right? Isn't that what we heard in the actual factuals?
Yeah.
If the epitome of beauty is European features, European features are going to be more associated with light skin than with dark skin, right?
Right. Right. But there are dark-skinned people in the European lands.
Yeah, because we hear about white men being referred to as tall, dark, and handsome. You hear white men being referred to as dark.
Well, it refers more to hair, I think, doesn't it?
I wouldn't know.
Yes, the hair is the dark hair.
Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, they're not talking about.
I never knew that.
I never knew that.
They're talking about the olive skin, dark hair. What's his name? Bronson.
I think of Clark Gable.
Yeah. So they'll say
Clark Gable's still a white. He's just a white guy to me. So you think when you say
I never knew that. I never knew that.
dark,
tall, dark, and handsome. Probably brown eyes and black hair.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brown eyes and black hair is always handsome compared to blue eyes and blonde hair.
Yeah.
That's a new one on me.
Never knew
I don't think I ever thought about it that deeply, but if I did, I wouldn't have come to that conclusion.
See, and that's where colorism plays every day of my life, where I didn't realize it until I got the invitation to come visit with you guys, because colorism plays every single day in my life. I'm never white enough to do business with white folks. I'm never black enough to do business with black people, especially chocolate-skinned people. Lighter skinned people.
Talk about that.
Please,
Let's back before you go to the lighter skin. Go back. What do you feel in dealing with darker skinned black folks? What's the energy?
Well,
and let me say this real quick, Nicole, before you go to that. The reason why I think that's such a genius question is because when we talk about colorism with black people, we always talk about it from the dark-skinned person's perspective a lot of times. So please, I want to hear it.
Okay, so for me, I don't have an issue with tall, dark-skinned people because that's who has loved me my whole life. So I have like a twisted view because I am what people would call like a red bone or a yellow bone, and people say that like it's some type of prestige, but really it's more drama because I can cheat and wear a curly side ponytail, see? But I could also press my hair out and have it looking straighter than the best of them. you know, because I do have that ability as a biracial girl. Now, I never even realized this stuff. And I got to pay homage to my grandmother because she was so awesome at raising me in the early 80s. I was born in 79, and I was born to an interracial couple. I had one older brother at the time, and then I had another brother born later in the 80s. But my grandmother was so awesome at balancing my life that I never even knew my mom was white until like second grade. And then I didn't really understand racism for real until Barack Obama was elected.
Wow.
And it really made me think because the friends, my white friends that I had my whole life now, y'all, that I thought were, you know, some of them were like family to me, they exposed themselves as that coloristic person that I never dreamed them to be. So, you know, it's different looking at it from on a business perspective and dealing with people because I was taught all of us were God's children, and so doing business with a dark skinned person or a light skinned person doesn't matter to me, but I see it across the people I deal with. And that's unfortunate because I do see where the lighter skinned person gets the better opportunity unless they check the box black on their paperwork. So they can be light skinned all they want to be, but if they check black on the paperwork, their paperwork might not be processed the same as the real white person instead of the light skinned person. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
And it's very real, and I think it's very strange. And I hope that in my lifetime I'm able to make an impact on erasing that colorism, because at the end of the day, we all bleed the same.
Let me ask a question, Nicole. I'm gonna ask a question of you, fam. Have you ever played that card? Have you ever played that card to check the white box or the non-black box just because of the opportunity?
Well, in my life and as an adult, no. But as a child, my parents did. The benefit of the educational structure of my life.
Right.
Okay, so I didn't realize this, and I knew it back then. I heard all the court rulings and the drama, and I rode a taxi cab to school for almost 2 school years. I went to inner city schools, but I lived in the suburbs. But because of the desegregation order of Kansas City, they were trying to integrate the schools. And so I was blessed with being able to go into the school system in Kansas City, even though I lived in the suburbs of a different district that had a Kansas City address. So yes, in my lifetime, there has been one time that I've benefited from being half white. One.
That's interesting. That reminds me of just
it was
the
actually
48 movie.
Court order.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, thank you. That reminds me of, I think it was a Cindy Poitier movie where it was about passing. Mm-hmm. Remember they used to talk about passing all the time?
Yes. There's one on Netflix right now.
Yeah. I watched a lot of those movies. But yeah, so how does that make you feel even in business when the darker skinned people are holding it against you because you're lighter complected? Do you care?
I mean, it's frustrating, but I just feel like, you know, what's designed for me is mine anyway. So it's just frustrating because it's such a block in progress. Like we should all be able to, you know, progress together. And I do agree with Jack on how there's some sexism going on. You know, women are treated different than men, but it's like a double-edged sword because I've had the compliment, which is a twisted, insulting compliment to me, but oh, you a strong Black woman. Yeah. Well, the definition of a strong Black woman could be very, very, very detailed. And that also gives a underlying message that we take more because we carry a heavier load than the white woman does.
Cool. You know, something I wanted to ask you too, Nicole, and I hope if I ask anything that you feel uncomfortable with, please tell me. I'm not sure you would anyway. Mm-hmm. But like, because two questions. One, being light skinned, do you feel like you've ever had your beauty questioned at all? Because I know a lot of people I talk to that are lighter skinned, they were like, people automatically assume everybody thinks I'm beautiful, but I don't even like how I've dated a woman who was about your complexion before, beautiful woman, but she's like, I don't like being this light. She would try to darken her skin, but everybody else thought she was drop dead gorgeous. Everybody. It wasn't even a question. But she didn't feel that way. But do you have your beauty questioned at all by yourself or others?
I do. I don't really doubt myself because I'm okay with who I am. I enjoy my, you know, the translucent moments of my year. This is the lightest you'll see me. Later this year, I'll be like a brown color, but every winter I become very, very light skinned. And then in the summer, I'll tan up, and I rarely burn like, white people burn. I rarely burn. I just tan all summer long, but it's interesting because you're never white enough to do business with the white people or even go to school with them. It's just interesting because if I, on my resume, if I show that I went to the Black schools, then I would only be able to do business in a certain arena compared to if I have private white colleges or experiences in white corporations or even the white hospitals and the white chains of medical facilities. I get a different arena to work in. My arena opens in massive ways. And it's unfortunate to really sit down and think about the blocks that have happened because the colorism never occurred in the white family. If we go back in the day, and I don't want to take up too much of your time or get on a soapbox, but if we go back in the day, and Jack, I don't know if you understand this side of it or not, but the welfare system was designed to destroy the Black family. The Black Panthers were created to feed the Black family, but media pumped it up and made the Black Panthers like they were bad people when really they wasn't. They were serving breakfast and, looking out for their people, providing reading programs and making sure that they were able to move forward in life because they knew that the white people were blocking that pathway. And so over time, the projects failed because, of course, with welfare, then they're told, oh, well, you can get the welfare as a woman, but your man isn't allowed in your house. So then you get all these Section 8 neighborhoods filled up with all these women trying to raise these kids with no men around. And then we get labeled, oh, well, you're a hero. You're a strong Black woman. No, nobody wants that struggle. Nobody wants to deal with that. But you never see that in a trailer park. Those white people don't struggle the same. And I don't understand that, the method of that, but it has come full circle now where we have communities of people who have been, generation to generation to generation of this colorism. And so it's important that we always, encourage education and literacy and things like that because now, please, Jack, please don't think I'm being rude because I'm not. I promise. I love the white people in my life. But the white people designed the system for the Black people to fail. And they don't want to admit it. So now that it's being busted out by the younger generations like myself and others, those generations are starting to be revealed, and now they're into the critical race theory where they want to fix the textbooks and they don't want to tell the truth about the colorism that really damaged our whole nation because we had awesome Black Wall Streets and awesome communities everywhere around all across the nation. So every culture could live alone, but for some reason we haven't been able to, conquer the system, I guess, that's been put in place.
Great comment, Jack.
That's my soapbox, y'all.
No, that was great. That was great. And Jack, I want to give you a chance to respond to that. And Jack, I'm not trying to act like you're the spokesman for all white people.
You are.
I wouldn't want you to do that to me, but we do want your perspective. And one thing I want to ask you is, So we're talking about colorism in the Black community and how it affects Black people. Do Caucasian people have anything that functions like colorism in your social construct?
Good question. I think nothing that even approaches the depth and severity and significance that Black folks attach to colorism. I mean, you know, in the white community, you might have men who say they only date redheads, you know, but you know, which it's not very deep.
But according to Eric's definition, it was a hair color was part of the definition, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah.
Hair color. So there is colorism.
Yeah. Yeah. What I want to suggest, though, is that, you know, a man saying he only dates redheads, that's, you know, probably a passing thing. And it's not, it doesn't suggest that there's anything special about, well, maybe not. Maybe I should backtrack on that, because there is the stereotype of the fiery redhead. Right? You know about that?
Right. Yeah.
The fiery redhead.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe at some level the man is thinking, yeah, I like the fiery redheads because they're, you know, they're fiery and better, or they're just fun and wild and crazy when we go out.
Yeah.
That could be it. I had never thought of it in terms of colorism before, but yeah, maybe.
Even with
And
blondes,
then
all
blonde,
the
I was about
blonde
to say the
jokes.
same thing. The blondes are soon to be dumb and bimbos and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, there was also the TV commercial. Is it true blondes have more fun?
Right. I remember that.
Okay. I never saw that.
Yeah. So that, you know,
Good question,
that's
Dick.
a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't be smart, but I can be taken to Barbados, or I can be taken to Tahiti because I'm beautiful and men like my blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about, Jack? What about the functioning of ethnicity as far as Caucasians? Like, I've heard a lot of Polish jokes from other white people. I've heard comments about darker-skinned Italians.
Mm-hmm.
How does that play out? You know, Irish people. Is that a big deal? Like, say I don't know if you're single or married, but say you were single and you're dating, and you met a Polish woman that you just thought was everything. Would your family have a problem with that? You may be Polish, but say you weren't. Would that be a problem?
No, I don't think so. There was a time back in, I think, probably the early 70s, no, late 60s, when I was in high school. I remember there was a round of Polish jokes going around.
Right.
And, do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Were you
Yeah.
okay? So
I was in a later time frame, but I remember, yeah.
And so, you know, for a brief time, Polish people weren't cool, you know, because they were supposedly stupid. And so maybe if I took home a Polish girl to my parents, they might be, no, my parents probably wouldn't even have heard these jokes because they were just in my cohort of kids. But if I were to take my Polish girlfriend to a party and somehow it would come up that she was Polish, her last name might give it away. You know, my friends, knuckleheads, teenagers who are easily influenced by what's cool and what's not at any given time might be like, oh, he's got a Polish girlfriend, you know, but I don't think that's nearly as pervasive, deeply entrenched, and longitudinal, you know, over time as the kinds of colorism that Black folks have to deal with.
But I think, Jack, was super important in this moment to acknowledge. I think that's part of the issue that I have with white America. They minimize everything. Those little points that are pervasive and do last generations and are damaging time and time again. I mean, Jack, you're here on the show, so you're a friend of the program. But many of your white counterparts, white men in America, people that set up this country, the people that run this country, they minimize so much to the point of resentment. And that, I think, is part of the problem that that exists.
Let me back it up just a little bit to something that Nicole said a little while ago. Certainly, our social programs have had the effect, and I think in the minds of a lot of legislators, probably the intent of messing up the black family. But the way I look at it, with a very strong sensitivity to the problems of black men, I think what the folks who wanted to mess up the black family were most afraid of, the people they most wanted to damage and control and limit, was the big black guys. It was men. It was the men who got moved out of the family because they ain't no good. They ain't no good. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to be giving money to those guys because you know what they'll do with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll take it and buy drugs, or they'll get liquor, or they'll play craps and lose it all. You know, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of sexism involved in our social programs, especially when it comes to black men, because, you know, black men, well, they're black for one thing, so we know about blacks, and they're male, and, you know, there's another thing, you know how men are. So black men get a 1-2 double whammy punch, and social services really not interested in supporting them, helping them.
To this day.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah. In 2022, we're still dealing with that. Yeah.
You are tuned into the Money, Sex, Gen X podcast. This is season number 5. Me and Big Stu made it to our season finale. This is episode number 7. We are talking colorism. We have a guest here, Nicole. We have Jack here. We got Big Stu. We are trying to get deep into this colorism issue. No one on the show is claiming to be an expert. We did a little bit of research, but we're really digging into our experiences to try to give you all a conversation that is real, and a conversation that attempts to cover a couple of different bases around colorism. As you all were just talking, I thought about and I'm really asking this to Nicole and Scott. I would like to get your opinion on this. If you heard a news story about a person getting robbed and the assailant being unknown, and you had to figure out who that person was, what image would come to your mind?
For me, first of all, the context is important. Where are we? Where is this news story happening?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's say Chicago. Let's say Chicago.
It still depends, like where in Chicago, right? Is a real thing for me. North side, I mean, if it's on the north side, I'm always assuming it's somebody white. Okay. I'm always assuming it's somebody white. If they're talking about something on the south side, then yeah, I'm always assuming that it's somebody black. Is the first image in my head. When I hear about the shootings on the expressway, I assume that those are black folks doing that.
Well, my point is not about whether you assume they're black. What color do you assume them to be black? What complexion?
Oh, I don't have that. That doesn't. Because I've seen some light-skinned, tough guys. You know what I mean?
Okay. No,
so I don't. Yeah, I don't have that color. Shade doesn't come up to me. I will say in a recent story, and Maze, you know, I mean, E-Money, you know about it when Maze Jackson was carjacked recently, a couple of months ago. And Maze Jackson is a self-made guy here in Chicago, well-known, well-respected. He was carjacked, and it was down in the South Loop area, which is a, burgeoning area of the city. And to find out that he was being carjacked by a white guy surprised me. It was a white guy that carjacked.
Wow. I didn't know that. I knew he got carjacked. I didn't know who it ended up being.
It was a white guy. And he said he was so taken back because the guy tapped his car and then got out, and all of his defenses were down. Every last one of his defenses were down because he had not in a million years imagined that he would be about to be carjacked by a white guy. So, I mean, I think that plays, when I hear about this stuff, I automatically assume a lot of the stuff on the South Side is happening by black folks. But, hey, the reality is it's not always black folks doing this stuff.
If I asked you that question about New York City, would you segment it in your mind the way that you did with the South Side, North Side?
Yes.
Okay. So that's just how you think about things. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Nicole, I want to ask you the same question. Someone's robbed. I don't think the city, for me, that doesn't matter. Pick whatever city you want. What image comes to your mind? The assailant is unknown. For say a robbery.
Well, interesting thing for me when you asked the question, I didn't think of a person, but I immediately felt anxiety.
Okay. Wow.
Because for me, I deal with violence different.
Okay.
Because I come from a lot of violence. So my first concern is, oh my gosh, are they okay? And is the police gonna kill them?
Okay.
That's kind of where I go. Like, is someone about to be hurt? Is everyone okay?
Right.
My first thought is everyone okay? And
regardless of color.
yeah.
Okay.
I have a lot of violence in my life. Not anymore, thank God, you know, but as a child, I had a lot of violence in my life that I don't think the adults around me realized that there was that level of violence. And a lot of it was uncontrolled. So I'm not saying that, you know, the adults were held responsible, but I just don't think we understood the capacity or the intensity of the amount of violence at the time, because like when I experienced the double homicide with my brother, within 3 weeks time, I had lost 2 of his friends and I was an 8th grader. But 2 of his friends were killed in the same exact window of time. And that's just one example of my life and how violence and high crimes and stuff have affected my life. So I didn't think of a person. I thought, man, I hope everybody's okay.
That's interesting.
And then I get worried about the criminals, even though they are criminals. I get worried about the criminals because I don't want the police killing anybody. And they tend to kill browner skin more than they do a light skin, a white skin.
Yeah, I kind of can share you and Stu's thoughts. Like when I hear those types of things, I don't necessarily think any specific complexion or person, because I also grew up around a lot of violence in my late 20s, around my 20s, and I've seen people of every nationality commit crimes and be victims of them, from white people, Hispanic, Black, Asian.
women.
Some of the most violent people I've known actually were not Black.
Yeah.
So I don't have a certain thing that comes to mind. It's just like, oh, okay, you know, hopefully they don't try to blame a Black person, but it could be anybody. And that's just been my perspective. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because one of the things I want to try to get to in this conversation is just like, what does colorism look like today? I think we're all doing a good job of just sharing our perspectives. Like, I do wonder, is skin complexion still an indicator of social status?
Yes.
Right? What if I do have a bunch of money, Jack, but I'm the big Black dude? Do I have any status still? Let's use P. Diddy. Maybe you're aware of P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, the rapper, the mogul?
Yeah.
He's a darker skinned person, right? He has a lot of money according to accounts. Does he have social status?
Well, I'm not too much into the rap and hip hop world, but I would say not necessarily. I mean, status comes in different status comes in different forms and different categories. You know, does he have status as somebody who can hop in a jet and fly to, you know, Paris for lunch? You know, yeah. Is he necessarily a good person? You know, maybe not. Depends on what you think about the rap and hip hop culture. You know, Tupac Shakur was from Baltimore, and he was a pretty big star, and then he ends up getting killed. And you know, did he have status right before he got killed? He didn't have much status after he got killed. Maybe in some people's memories he did, but let's think about also. I'm more familiar with sports than I am with rap and hip hop. Let's take a big black dude, a black football player, a black basketball player.
Take OJ.
Well, yeah, I mean, on one extreme, yeah. But on the other extreme, you got some football players who are winning Citizen of the Year awards, you know, for the good work they do.
Right.
So, does the fact that a person have a lot of money, whether they're white or black, really, necessarily give them status? In a way, it does, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person.
Well, we're not talking
And
about a good person. I'm only talking about social standing.
I'll give you an example to the Jack. All right, so I've heard, so let's say take a person like a Jay-Z, and white folk will say, well, he ain't like the rest of them. Michael Jordan, he's not like those other black guys, right? Even when I think about Donald Trump, I was a huge Donald Trump fan before he became our president. And Donald Trump could do whatever he was doing, and no, it didn't matter. Donald Trump was being Donald Trump. And so he was good to come on the wheels on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was good to hang out with Diddy, good to hang out with Snoop. Donald Trump was the man to beat until he wasn't. So that level of, I think that's what Eric is kind of saying is that, does money and prestige get you in certain spaces, regardless of color, that if you weren't that person, you wouldn't have that access. Am I surmising it right, Eric?
You are, particularly the big black man that we keep talking about, right? If they have the money, can they supersede big black man status and have a high social standing in 2022?
So here's a particular context for status, and I'm picking this one because I think I don't know, I guess it's interesting and might help us focus on what's going on here. If you're at a white country club or a mostly white country club, and Dennis Rodman comes walking in, he's got a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the folks at that white country club would be like, oh, Dennis, come on over here and sit down and have dinner with us.
Okay.
But if you're the president of a local university and you're black, people are like, come on, yeah, I'd love to talk.
Let's stick with that. I like the Dennis reference.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just change it if it's Dennis and now it's LeBron walks in.
Yeah.
Does LeBron get this?
Definitely
He's
went
added
there.
up and he's controversial and he's Black Lives Matter. Does he get the opportunity to sit down and have dinner? He's no different than Rodman.
Well, no, he is. He's got a whole different brand anyhow. Got a whole different brand, right? So yeah, probably if some of the white folks at the country club would know who he is and know that he's a good guy, and others would be like, oh, he's a black man. I don't want anything to do with him.
This is
but
real talk.
there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of nuance here.
I think that also has to do with the age. I think at that moment of walking in the country club and being Dennis Rodman or LeBron James, I think it has to do with the age welcoming them into the country club. Because if it's the younger generations like mine, they be like, hey. But if it's the older generations, they don't care about their money or who they are, because all they know is what they've seen in the news, that Dennis Rodman is out here, wearing dresses and dyeing his hair pink, So LeBron is more of a grounding. Even though he's rebellious in a lot of ways, he's still a grounding for them. And I'm going to say them as the people who articulate colorism so well in our society.
Well, here's another layer on this conversation. So I used to frequent country clubs when I was younger, believe it or not. And I played basketball as most tall people are supposed to. I was good. I boxed. I did a lot of stuff, but I also played tennis. And I went to a lot of country clubs for tournaments. And I can tell you also, aside from having money, because I didn't have money, but if you were a good tennis player, almost exceptional, or a exceptional golf player like our friend Tiger Woods, then I also feel like these people would be like, oh yeah, it's cool. He can be here. But what if I wasn't good? What if Tiger wasn't good? So I don't think it's all about money. I just think it's all about what you can contribute to these people's environments that they value, right? They don't value you necessarily, but they might value what you can contribute to the situation.
E-Money, I want to go back to this question that you had And I want to talk, Jack, this is a great moment. If Eric would let this unfold, I'm not sure, we didn't discuss this. There's a great opportunity for you, Jack, to listen in, if you will, because this is some personal conversation. Is asked this question: is the brown paper bag test still a thing? E-Money, Nicole, do you all find yourselves in situations where you are saying today, in some contexts, I don't want to be around them black folks?
Them black folks. Yeah. But I will say this: for me, it's not about skin. It's not about a color of the skin.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say it's about other black people per se. It's like I don't like. I'll give you an example. I don't like to see people standing outside, for example. Even though I was one of the people doing it when I was younger, but that just bothers me right now as a 40-something-year-old man. Like, I don't want to see anybody standing outside drinking, shooting dice, any of the things that I used to do. That really bothers me. So I don't want to be around that, right? So if I have to do whatever, then I'm trying to be away from that because I don't want my children walking past that, et cetera, et cetera. But I do not condone this I'm better than another black person mentality because of a degree, how much money I make at all. I'm not in support of it at all, and definitely not because of somebody's skin tone.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
And for me, I know in reality it is a real thing today in 2022, right? But in my life, in my heart, in my soul, it's not a thing for me because I come from a rainbow of people who loved me my whole life. So I struggle with the big black guy being scary thing because I come from like a whole bunch of 6.5 foot tall, dark black guys. Even the women in my family are very tall, big women. Like I'm a tall woman myself. I'm big. And so I don't necessarily operate that way in my mind. But I know it's a real thing right now and it's affecting our communities. We had a tragedy in our local community recently where 2 brown girls got into a fight. It was a very violent fight. One was unconscious and one was arrested. So one left in an ambulance and one left in a police car. And immediately on social media, the community at large let colorism strike them, and they were commenting on these articles on the internet, calling these students all types of names and, never had a piece of evidence. They didn't know what was going on with that fight, but the colorism was so strong. And that was just a couple of weeks ago in 2022 that we experienced that at our middle school that our youngest son goes to. And they're awesome kids. The student body is an amazing group of kids. But the one fight that involved the one skin color turned out to be really bad in an opinion of the community. Now, if those would have been white girls fighting, I really don't believe it would have happened. I don't believe they would have been all, they're, savages and those kids don't have upbringing and who's raising those kids, It would have been none of that if it was 2 white girls fighting, and that's the truth.
Do you know the complexions of the 2 girls that were fighting? Were they darker skin, fair skin?
Mm-hmm. Both.
They were both. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So is the brown paper bag test still a thing? Yes, it is. Because you get away with stuff if you pass the test. You get away with different stuff than if you don't.
Even with the brown paper bag test, and I'm shout out to all of my Divine 9 sisters. I'm not under fraternity, but I recognize all the AKAs, Delta Sigmas, Thetas, all of y'all. But the AKAs, and I love you AKAs. Y'all know we do business. Love you all AKAs. They're known for having the majority of their members who are brown skin, brown paper bag, or lighter. Even today, it's kind of something that they carry with
right
them.
now today.
Kamala Harris, our vice president, is an AKA, and her skin tone is lighter than a brown paper bag. Shout out to all you AKAs. I love y'all. I know y'all didn't do that. I know y'all didn't set that up, but you also know you've heard this rumor too. You've heard this as well. So I'm not saying nothing that's a secret. But yeah, it's still relevant. You think I'm gonna get in trouble for that, E?
Nah. I think you were very diplomatic in the way you
I deal a lot of business with AKA, so don't hold it. I'm just stating a fact, factual.
That made me think about something, and we're rounding home base here, you all. Thank you for staying on and having this conversation. I'm going to get you all's final thoughts. I got a final little comment of my own about the AKA thing. If you're a lighter skinned person, or say you're darker skinned, maybe the grouping sometimes is just wanting to be around people who you feel like will understand you better. If that makes any sense. Like, Nicole, I don't know if you're an AKA or if you're in a sorority.
I didn't pledge. I don't fit in with any of them.
But say there was a sorority based on mixed race individuals. And some people are like, why y'all doing that? Well, maybe it would just be because maybe that group of people understands me a little bit better than maybe a chocolate complected person. And on the chocolate side too, there's some fraternities and sororities that are more darker people. Maybe that's because, hey, these people might understand me better. Now, that might sound kind of crazy to some people, but just given some people's experiences on a daily basis, they just might want that comfort zone, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Comfort zone is where it is, you know.
Yeah. It might be a comfort zone.
Of it.
Absolutely. All right, I want to get you all's final thoughts as we wrap up here. So I want to start with Nicole. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience about this topic of colorism?
Well, yes, I'll share some thoughts. I just want to be real easy with it. I don't want to offend anybody, but I do want to hold people accountable. You know, there's this new thing going on with this critical race theory in our nation, and it's all based on colorism. And it's a big deal. And burning books or insulting people who actually have real, true evidence of what has happened in our nation isn't okay. And I think as balanced-minded citizens of the communities that we are participating in, it's our job, the four of us and beyond into our circles, it's our job to hold them accountable. Even when they get mad, even when they get upset, hold them accountable. Don't support rewriting textbooks. Don't support burning the historical books that really helped pave the way for what's going on. You know, it's a big deal to know that as a woman, so I'm a double minority if you go into looking in, you know, all of that. And I fit a lot of the statistics. And so it's important that we work on raising and encouraging others, no matter what age. I say raising as far as children, but even the older generations, it's good for us to just provoke the thought, make them think, because for some reason they have not come into it. And so people will say things. Now my kids are older, I don't deal with it as much, but when I was a young mom, people would say things like, oh, your kids are so brown and beautiful. What are they?
What are they?
Like what?
Not what.
You know, and I was, again, you know, paying homage to my grandmother. And my final thoughts, she taught me to check other and write Nicole on the line. My grandmother.
Other and write Nicole. Wow. Yeah.
And in elementary school, I got in trouble for that. Because, you know, you take this standardized test, you got to color in your bubbles. And I would color in other and I would write Nicole or I would write human. I never checked a box. And as I got older, I realized what my grandmother taught me. Because she taught me we're all human. If you don't know that we're all human, and if you get caught up in colorism and mistreatment of people because of their color, then you must not know we're all God's children. And poor you. I feel sorry for you. And that's the way that I believe. That's in my heart and my soul. So I deal with things a little differently than most because of her teaching me that in the early 80s. I had my hair cut, by a little girl. I was mistreated by my own third grade teacher. She was white and she didn't like me because she knew I was brown. And I didn't realize I was brown. I mean, I come from a rainbow of people, but third grade was my first time being mistreated based upon who I was. And I didn't even know because I check other and write Nicole on the line. I'm Nicole. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, or how much money you have, or if you're homeless on the corner. And I think that's where we need to be. So that's my final thought. Just treat everyone as we are God's kids, and just a side note, prayers up to the people of Ukraine and all of our friends and our colleagues that are being affected by that. Because at the end of the day, colorism is real, but we all share the same exact ball of dirt. So
Indeed. Powerful thoughts. And I do want to add this to your earlier comment or suggestions. People out there, because a person is light-skinned does not mean they have a perfect life or even a better life than you. It does not mean that. And we can't hold it against people for thinking that, but you got a person here telling you that she's obviously a fair-skinned person, but she's had some trauma in her life and a lot of things that she had to work through. Her life is not perfect. She's a person. People have things to work through. So thank you for sharing today.
Thank you for
Jack Cameron. Very welcome. Very welcome. We look forward to having you back more and more in the next season. And Jack Cameron, what do you have to say to the people about colorism as we go out?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And I want to compliment you for the way you put the show together. I mean, the concept is really brilliant. The setup, having Nicole, having me, having you two, just really fascinating dynamic happening here. I also want to say something kind of hopeful. It's no secret to anybody that this country is polarized across all kinds of lines. Gender for one, race for the other. And polarization seems to be thriving on suspicion, doubt, believing that one side knows everything and the other side knows nothing, that one side cares about America, the other side doesn't care about America. It's huge polarization that can be broken down. And I think today this show probably has broken down some polarization across issues of race, because it's pretty clear that everybody on this show has been talking about stuff that's real. Mm-hmm. And recognizing the difficulty of it and the nuance of it and the complexity of it and the craziness of it all. Mm-hmm. And the conversations like this are invaluable, and we need more of them. Absolutely. And I hope you do more of them. This has been a really helpful demonstration that when people are invited to speak and to be heard, good things can happen.
Yeah,
good things can happen.
True indeed. Yeah, I just want to thank you all before you leave for being real. Sometimes we feel like, and I've done this because I'm on camera, I have to say this and that. I think you all said the truth. I feel like Big Stu said the truth, and I said the truth as I know it. I really appreciate that. And guess what? People are listening to our show all over the world. So we don't know who this might spark. It might take somebody down a whole path that they didn't even think about before. So thank you all. Now, before you go, Nicole, I know you're in logistics, you're in nursing. If people want to reach out and do business, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Nicole Works with an X, or on my business page, Carnelian Group. And it's spelled just like the crystal, Carnelian.
Is that what WORXS or just X?
Just an X. Nicole Works.
Nicole Works.
Yep, okay. You can find me there.
All right, reach out to Nicole to do some business. And then Jack does a lot of work, as we talked about, around men, issues related to men, which I appreciate because I don't feel like we have a lot of people speaking on our behalf these days. We appreciate it. He's got 2 different podcasts that we mentioned. Where can they find you, Jack?
Malefriendlymedia.com. All one word, no hyphens, malefriendlymedia.com.
All right. Thank you all for coming on the show, and we will connect with you all again very soon.
Well, before Jack goes, I promise Jack.
I almost forgot.
Promise Jack. You can find Jack at malefriendlymedia.com. That's where you can find Jack. But we also want to, I thought I had it here. Oh, here it is, right here. Let's highlight Jack Cameron's wardrobe highlight.
I forgot.
I'm not going to forget. He has a statement red sweater that he wears everywhere where there's a camera. Jack, what color red is that?
This is Congresswoman Red.
Congresswoman Red. Wow.
Congresswoman Red, because they are powerful women. And all the men are wearing black and gray and blue. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're not really very powerful, are they? They're just, they ain't expressing themselves the way the women are.
Okay. And Jack, is that a cable knit sweater?
I don't even know. I don't know.
He's looking for a name tag. I believe it is.
I don't even know.
Okay. All right. So if you're tuning on audio, this is a bright red, really nice sweater. And as soon as you see Jack in the media space, you're going to see that red. So that's the
Congresswoman Red.
Jack.
Congresswoman Red.
So that lets you know it's Jack Cameron that you are looking at.
That's right. That's right. Shout out to you, Jack, for being
Thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
We'll give you all your day back.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me. And nice to meet you, Jack. You guys have a great weekend.
Nice to meet you, Nicole.
Right,
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. E-Money.
Big Stu, what's happening, man?
We
that
did
was
it.
A good combo. Yes. We made
did
it.
it.
5 seasons.
Season 5 is wrapping up right now. Episode 7. I gotta let the people know this too. We wouldn't have got through this season if it wasn't for Big Stu. Big Stu, I was in a whole nother space because I do that sometimes. I zoned out, and Stu was like, "Eric, we got to finish up the season, man. Come on." And he was really adamant about that, so I really appreciate that. It wouldn't have got done because I'd have been like, "Oh, let's do it later on in the year and all that." So we got it done. Thank you, sir, for that. Appreciate it. Thank you for being willing. I wasn't sure if because I recognized that you got some, you're in a different space. Things have changed. You got a new addition, and business is booming, and life is happening. So thank you for committing to finishing what we've started, and even with episodes, at the very least, seasons 6 and 7. We know we've talked through season 7 for sure.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully I'm looking forward to us getting those done at least season. We normally take the spring and summer off.
Yeah.
Anyway, but maybe we don't wait so long, and you guys are hearing some back room conversation right now, but
no doubt.
I want to keep it going because I feel like we're just getting started. Just getting started. We haven't even had 50 episodes yet.
I hear you. I agree, man. And we got so many more people to introduce to the world. There's so many dope Gen Xers out there, Black Gen Xers, that we want to introduce to the world. So we got so many more conversations to have. So yeah, I agree with that. Season 6. Yeah, let's start chopping it up about what we might want to talk about, man.
Hey, man, let me tell you this. I think I want to bring Jack in regularly.
Okay.
I like Jack. I like his perspective. You know why? You know why I like Jack so much?
Why's that?
Because he tells the truth, man. He don't hide.
He does tell the truth.
He don't hide, man.
He would have never been on here if he didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of us would have wanted him on here if we didn't get that vibe from him.
And I want him to keep bringing it. He ain't afraid. Man.
He ain't afraid. Yeah, no doubt, man. Now, do we have, I know we're a little over, do we have time for Tales from the Startup?
We have time for it all, man. This is our season finale, man. We got time for it all, man. Come on, I do have a 10 o'clock. I'm teaching a stock market basics class today for adults at 10. But we got time. Let's go to let's
All
go
right.
to our
And this
tales
one's
from the startup.
and this one's short, so that'll work. All right, so I'm gonna get right into this. Tales from the startup. If you're new to the show, is people are starting these companies or organizations. They want to get some feedback. Sometimes they have problems getting real feedback. Me and Stu try to keep it, try to keep it a buck. We try to keep it 100. So we'll give that real feedback. We have some experiences to draw from. Today says, hi, I'm a Black Gen Xer from Cleveland, Ohio. All right, Cleveland. I don't know if we ever had
Shout out,
Cleveland on here. All
Well,
right,
hey,
shout out
they just hosted NBA All Star, so there it
True
is.
indeed. True indeed. So Cleveland's popping. He says, thank you for doing these segments because you all give it up and it's much appreciated. All right, cool. I'm about to start my company, which is a coaching service for people who want to set up Shopify and other digital store platforms.
Okay.
I have a day job as a middle school principal. I have a decent income, but I have very little time to actually run my business. What strategies can I use to serve clients but make money faster? Wow, I think this is my favorite one that we've had so far. So,
well, take a stab at it. Go for it. Yeah.
Coaching service, Shopify, very specific. I like that. Have a day job, making good money, but want to make money in the business. What strategies to serve clients but make money faster, Stu? Wow,
that's you, man. That's you. That's you. Go
take
a stab at it, E.
I'm going to take a stab at this. I'll tell you something real simple. I'll tell you two things. One, instead of doing one-on-one, why not do a group? Why not have a group offering? So, a lot of coaches and consultants, we love doing the one-on-one. It's engaging and it's intensive. But you know what? I've learned that you could do that same engaging, intensive coaching in a group. You can have 10 people, because think about it, when you're coaching and consulting, you're usually telling people the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So package that up and give it to them at 10 people at a time. You'll be able to bring in money faster and also serve people faster. Group versus one-on-one. What are your thoughts, Steve?
That's dope. That's dope. I also think that you could go ahead and use the replay. So you record those workshops or those sessions, and then people can go and buy the modules, the pre-recorded modules. Now you've duplicated yourself without having to be there. And that money can clock in when you're sleeping, when you're working. I like that group model. I like the record sessions and let people buy the recordings. Those are two good ways, I think, man.
I like those too. And you can combine them, because to Stu's point, you can take some of that video and use it at the top of your marketing funnel to get leads, and then connect it to click funnels and all this different stuff. But that was going to be my second point. To Stu's point, you can tie all of that to automation.
Automation.
So what if you just did what Stu's talking about and put it on click funnels?
Yeah.
Killer combination. And in the outcome could be a group. So you can do all three of those things.
And now you got the group, and you got group memberships, subscriptions. Yeah, I think, but be mindful. You're gonna have to put in the work on the front end to set it up.
Absolutely.
It's gonna cost you some hours on the front end setting it up for sure.
And you're gonna need some help. Like, you might need a guide to help you do it. But there's a lot of people that have accelerators now that teach people how to do that. So.
Yeah.
All right, Cleveland. That was a really good business question.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I like that one. All right, cool. So do we have a pool artist?
We do, man. We do. Let's get into it. We're gonna do. I'm going to share the screen. I want to make sure I'm sharing audio. I want to share the audio. Yep. So we're going to do New Wave from Not Them. Just dropped exclusively on Pool. Let me go back to it. Where did it go? I just had it. Here it is. Here we go. New Wave, Not Them. You can hear this on Pool.
New Wave. All right.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Y'all thought I was finished. Just cooking in my kitchen, washing up my dishes, taking care of my children, plotting on $1 million. That I make $1 billion. done. Humble where I'm from. TV want you dumb. Enslaving for some crumbs. Ain't no competition. I own all what I'm giving. Climbing out of poverty, I do it with such modesty. Better work on some land, get you some property. Don't get caught in a hype, it's a monopoly. Making demons growl. I'm the chosen child. Freeing all my people. I do this for my kinfolk. Down in Mississippi, in Louisiana. Granddad come from Bama. This one for my grandma who worked as a slave. Then worked
check
as
that
a
on
maid.
Pool.
And all my granddaddies who worked for that
Poolofmusic.com.
white
New
man.
wave.
They want us to forget
Not
because
them.
they owe us some change. I am not your.
I like it, man. It's different. It's
That was
very,
good. I
very
like that.
different, man.
Yeah. I caught the
Very
wave on that. Ain't gonna lie.
Check that
Okay.
out. Check that
All
out.
right. Cool, doing their thing. Then the week before, you had a video that you showed us of some artists. So Pool is definitely exploding. Poolofmusic.com.
Man, we just had a very, very dynamic artist listener session last Saturday.
Yeah, how did that go? I hate I missed it.
Oh, man, it was through the roof, man.
Okay.
We had Drew Sidora from, some of you may know her from Housewives of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she played in movies like White Chicks, and she starred in movies with DMX and an actress singer. We had Filthy Rockwell, your man, was one of the panelists.
Okay.
Robert Vaughn from Motown Records and Kendall P Music. And then, man, it was just great. So we're doing it again. There's more information to come about that, but it was absolutely game-changing, man. Game-changing event.
Beautiful. Is there a replay?
There is. It's on Facebook still right now. Go to the Pool page on Facebook and check it out. Yep, you can check it out there. It's there. And yeah, man.
All right, man.
That's what's up.
Well, thank you, my brother, for 5 beautiful seasons. I look forward to doing more work with you, and we will see you all in season number 6 coming soon.
Indeed. Until next time, you already know what it is.